End of the video. Today I am I'm just trying to finish this. We're taking a look at every single Arkham City story. This is going to be part can't even think, part 2, right? No, this is going to be what am I thinking? This is part 2. Yeah, this is part 2. This is Arkham City stories. This is the second part that we're going to be taking a look at. So bear with me here. Maxie Zeus. Not every building in Arkham City was in despair before the mega prison was constructed. One operating building was the Gotham City Olympus nightclub, originally owned by Maxie Zeus. Although Maxie Zeus appeared in Arkham Asylum after one too many rounds of electric shock therapy, the club kept running in absence, leading to some to think that Maxie hasn't gone far. Cold start, 1 of 2. When Hugo Strange arranged for Nora Fries to be moved to Arkham City, her husband Victor Fries, aka Mr. Freeze, escaped from her refrigerated containment cell to find her. But Strange was waiting for him. He calmly informed Victor that Nora had been transferred for her own safety, that if Victor wished to see her again, he said that he should move quietly in his new home in Arkham City. To motivate further, Strange promised him full access to military facilities in the old JCPD building, now abandoned within the high security walls of Arkham City, stocked with all the tools required to see a cure for Nora. Start cold, 2-2. Mr. Freeze stood alone in his new laboratory. Everything Strange had promised was true. Everything except his frozen wife Nora, who was nowhere to be seen. Furious Freeze upgraded his suit's weapon system, arming himself to find Strange to give him back his wife. Waiting until dark, he marched out of the GCPD, only to be ambushed by a squad of Tiger operatives with orders to take him to Professor Strange. Illegal operations. While in prison as resident Arkham Asylum, Hugo Strange spared out prison to his private process of leading him to unlocking the workings of his mind in order to control it. In order to cover up his experiments, he arranged for these poor individuals to be lobotomized, locked in their cells and forgotten. It was during these experiments that Strange perfected his ability to quiet photophatic, suggestions in the minds of his victims. A technique he used to guarantee his absolute loyalty from his hand-picked Tiger guards. So yeah, he mind-controlled them pretty much. After escaping from custody, the Joker released the lunatics and allowed him to run free across Arkham Island in an attempt to stop the Batman. Cobblepot Feud, 1 of 5. There's a lot in this one. At the opening of the Cobblepot Towers, there's a Cobblepot Towers? Wow. Harry Cobblepot, print magnate, turned Hoyater, I don't even know what that means, looked at his latest hotel, determined to outclass the also new open Grand Wayne Plaza. Desperate to ruin his rival, Judge Solomon Wayne, Henry laughed at his reports. The desperation. Wait, it said. I think this is like old Gotham. Desperation, because Solomon Wayne was the judge. The people of Gotham preferred the restrained splendor of the Wayne Hotel to his location. He swore that the Cobblepot's hotels would be the premier destination of the world. He was wrong, and it cost him both his fortune and his health. On his deathbed, Henry left the remains of his fortune to his son, Stanley Cobblepot. Stanley vowed to outdo the Wayne family and their empire, now headed to Alan Wayne. Let's be like, I'm guessing, Bruce Wayne's grandfather, maybe? Yeah, Cobblepot's maybe also grandfather? Or father? The Cobblepot's feud, 2 of 5. Stanley Cobblepot is instigated a very public feud with the Wayne family. As the Wayne business empire extended to include hotels and other public buildings, Stanley was determined to outdo them, pouring more and more money into his fledgling hotel business to determine the newspaper business and his relationship with his son Oswald. Yeah, obviously. As Stanley businesses crumbled around him, he sent Oswald to school in England, feeling abandoned and picked on by his peers for his homely appearance. Oswald skipped class, preferring the company of the thieves and scoundrels he met on the streets. By the time of his father's empire's collapse, Oswald had vanished. Cobblepot Feud, 3 of 5. When the council decided to shut down the Pinky National History Museum, they sold the historic structure to the highest bidder. Located in the tearing part of the city, many investors passed up this opportunity, but for Oswald Cobblepot, this was exactly what he wanted. He purchased the building and established this as the base of operations, converted the attached theme restaurant, the Iceberg Lounge, into a high-profile nightclub. To the public, the Iceberg Lounge was a reputable establishment. Below the surface was a den of iniquity, to go-to place for illicit and illegal wares. The adjacent museum exhibit halls were repurposed as the Penguin storage facility, housing everything from his torture room, his weapon cache, and a gladiator pit. Illegal fights to the death occurred nightly when the victors earning a job on Penguin's crew. Combat Feud 4-5. The Penguin's operation was run on fear and pain. One night, a guest at the Pittsburgh Lounge was caught cheating at poker. They can torture this man in full view of everyone. A friend of the man grabbed a beer bottle, smashed on the table, and attacked, driving the ball hard into Penguin's face. As Penguin screamed, the attacker and his friend were dragged away to a private torture room. Caldpot was examined by the finest doctors in Gotham City, but the prognosis was always the same. Removing the bottle could be fatal. Caldpot Feud 5-5. When the Penguin received the imminent Dominion seizure from the City Hall, ordering him to vacate the Icebreaker Lounge, he applied with a letter telling Mayor Sharp that no one tells Oswald Caldpot what to do. He bought his public property illegally, and the city could find somewhere else to stick their prison. On the day that the perimeter wall was due to be completed, the JCPD stashed with backup from Tiger Guards to forcibly reclaim the building. The Penguin orders men to fire the police, killing 3 veteran officers. With the Penguin criminal nature no longer in dispute, Mayor Sharp ordered the wall closed, trapping the Penguin in his game in Arkham City. Poisonous Intent 1 of 2. Ready to turn for a new leaf, Pamela Isley rejected her poison ivy persona and opened a small flower shop in the back streets of Gotham. Surrounded by plants, she was content for a while, but society continued to mistreat her, babies, and eventually she snapped. A man came to buy flowers for his wife, obviously feeling guilty about having been unfaithful. Pamela smiled and handed over an elaborate boutique. The plants came to life, rapidly growing into his screaming face and bursting the skin with his toxic thorns. Pamela laughed. Poison ivy was back. Poisonous Intent 2 of 2. After being given an overdose of Titan by the Joker, Poison Ivy was left to die in her airtight cell by Gordon Sharp, who blamed her for the mass destruction of Arkham Island. As her health declined, she prayed for salvation. It came in the form of a priest. It was unknowingly covered in pollen from the trees near his church. As he performed the last rites, having manipulated the pollen into an antidote that worked in harmony with her unique natural toxins in her blood. To amazement of the priest, she began full recovery. Furious, Warden Sharp locked her in a biological containment unit and arranged for her to be one of the first criminals sent to Arkham City. Election time. Quincy Sharp claimed to have been instrumental in stopping the riot at the Arkham Asylum, stirring a tide of public intermission. Throughout his mayoral campaign, Sharp repeatedly told voters that he would never allow their safety to be threatened by criminal scum. His victory was assured when he announced that he would create a new high-security prison that would forever separate the good people of Gotham City from the bad. Once elected, his first move was to put relatively unknown psychiatrist Professor Hugo Strange in charge of the whole facility. The Rat Catcher. Oh. Lois Flanagan, aka the Rat Catcher, looked out through the cell window on the opening day of Arkham City. He had kept out of trouble so far, but he would need a plan to survive. Arkham City claimed to be escape-proof. The Penguin had an illicit good market sewn up, so Rat Catcher would sell small comforts. Fine soap, breath mints, extra buttons. He sent out his rats to collect such items from the outside world. It worked. The business was brisk, and he felt safe until the Penguin came looking for his rival vendor. Flanagan was dragged screaming through the streets of Arkham City, followed by a trail of rats into the museum and never to be seen again. Now, fun fact, it says that pretty much he was killed, Otis Flanagan, but fun fact, he actually survived it, so he was thrown, comic book wise, which aren't really canon, but can be canon. I don't think this part is canon. He was eaten by a shark. Here's some extra things. He was eaten by a shark, of course, apparently, but he survived the attack with Tiny, and he actually lived Arkham City events, and later he was pretty much mauled. He was pretty much like Scarecrow was in Arkham Knight, but pretty much he was killed by Arkham Knight, sadly, after he lived, when Arkham Knight was killing all the people. Richard Dick Grayson, a new Robin. Richard Dick Grayson was the youngest in the family of acrobatics, known as the Flying Graysons. Their death-defying act was all that kept the circus where they performed their business. As people of Gotham clamored for tickets to show, the mob came looking for their cuts. As the circus owner refused, the mobsters killed Dick's parents during a packed performance they attended by Bruce Wayne. Wayne, to protect the devastated orphan, Bruce took Dick under his wing, became his legal guardian, eventually entrusting the boy with his greatest secret. Desperate to help his friend and mentor, Dick trained hard to become Robin, patrolling the Gotham at Batman's side. Now an adult, Dick fights crime on his own, as eventually entity called Nightwing. Scarecrow. No one has seen Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow, since he was attacked by Killer Croc in the sewers below Arkham Asylum. Some say he escaped certain death by dragging what was left of himself into a tiny container and floating out to sea, while others believe he was eaten by Croc. Underrated, Batman has spent months searching for Crane, refusing to believe that he's dead. If Crane is out there plotting his revenge on Batman, then Batman knows Gotham will never truly be safe. Buried on a Sunday, Part 1 of 2. On a dark, stormy night in the late 19th century, a merchant named Cyrus Gold was murdered and dumped in the swamps near the emerging Gotham City. As the body sunk into the pit, it was exposed to an unusual chemical in the swamps, which miraculously reanimated the merchant. He set out wandering the streets of old Gotham, unable to remember his name and only to recite the nursery rhyme, Solomon Grundy. Seemingly unable to treat death, the undead man, now called Solomon Grundy, was captured and ruthlessly experimented on and determined to discover what he had brought Grundy back to life. It became apparent the creature was now immortal due to a combination of swamp chemicals and the storm that raged in the night of his death. Man, born on a Sunday, buried on a Sunday, Part 2 of 2. Was that like Sunday and went from Monday? No, they're both buried on Sunday. As the army moved through the condemned Wonder City searching for stragglers, no one expected that what lay in Ra's al Ghul's private medical laboratory. For months, Solomon Grundy had been exposed to the Lazarus chemical and then repeatedly electrocuted. He had died dozens of times, but each time he was brought back for more. While the soldiers debated what he even was, Grundy revived again and killed everyone nearby. Mentally broken by his ordeal, he waited at the lab for the doctors to return and murder him again. So I like to think that Solomon Grundy, that he was left in there on that. So it means that Ra's al Ghul would have owned that one place in the museum for a while. Talia's guard. Even though she's a fearsome warrior in her own right, Ra's al Ghul's daughter Talia is always shadowed by her secretive order of highly trained female protectors known as the Elite Guard. Each individual is chosen generations in advance and trained from birth to be the best of the best, easily capable of holding her own against 100 men. Broking deals. Sherman Fine, aka the broker, has carved out a lucrative business in Gotham City by being the go-to guy to purchase property. Mainly hired by criminal underclass, Sherman will find and arrange all the necessary paperwork to ensure that the deal will go untraced while providing exactly what the client needs. In the past, he has purchased rooms on behalf of the Great White Shark, Mr. Zsasz, and the Joker. When planning his revenge on Batman, the Riddler took advantage of the broker's services to secure buildings that would later challenges. Scarface, 1 of 2. The original Scarface puppet was carved from an old gallows tree at the state prison and eventually fell into the hands of the meek Arnold Whisker, who disappointed his mafia family by showing more interest in ventriloquism than gunplay. Scarface became an unlikely mob boss in Wesker's hands. Unlike Wesker was locked up in Arkham Asylum without his precious puppet. Forced to improvise, he scrounged up materials for a new Scarface, one left mute upon Wesker's departure from the asylum. When the Joker took over Arkham, he discovered Scarface locked up and took a liking to the puppet. Scarface quickly received a harsh repaint and a new voice, complete with a demented laugh and a twisted sense of humor. Scarface, 2 of 2. Oh. When Batman shut down the Joker's ride at Arkham Asylum, it seemed that the relationship between the newly demented Scarface puppet and the Clown Prince had ended, until one of the Joker's oldest henchmen, Muggsy Banks, showed up at the steel mill in Arkham City. He rescued Scarface from the old asylum, knowing it would buy him favor from the Joker, and Muggsy was skillfully enough to make a dozen more copies, freeing the Joker to mutilate any puppet that failed to amuse him. After all, another Scarface could quickly be built up for him to laugh with abuse and then break into pieces. Joker only regret is that people aren't so easily toyed with and replaced. Or are they? I wonder what Muggsy Banks is all about. They gave him the whole name. Wherever he's referenced ever again. Catwoman and Two-Face, part 1 of 3. As strange grips tightened in the gates of Arkham City slammed shut on Gotham's criminals, only 3 were left at large: Two-Face, Catwoman, and Batman. Catwoman sat in her apartment, debating whether to flee, and her phone rang. On the other end, an unmistakable voice of Two-Face. "Sorry, Kitty Cat, but one of us had to go down." Suddenly, tiger guards were at the door. Fleeing, Catwoman fought her way through guard after guard, to the safety of a nearby roof. She could not only watch the guards ransack her apartment until they found her safe. She raised her claws, but a shadowy figure appeared behind her and held a gloved hand over her mouth until she passed out. I wonder who that was. Watches the guards ransack his apartment until they found her safe. Oh, she raised her claws, but a shadowy figure. Oh, I guess it was Batman saving her. Catwoman, Two-Face, 2 of 3. Catwoman came in the Batmobile as it raced through the streets of Gotham. She angrily told Batman that this is actually, I think, a comic series, that he shouldn't have gotten involved. Batman told her to give up on her loot and leave town before it was too late. Under rage, she asked Batman how Batman knew so much about Arkham City. He explained that he found a secret room in Sharp's office back at the asylum. Arkham filled with detailed plans for a new prison complex. Catwoman thanked him and pressed the emergency eject button on her seat. The man screeched to a halt, but it was too late. Catwoman had disappeared, and Batman knew exactly where she was headed. Catwoman, Two-Face, 3 of 3. Two-Face was already in the warden's office in Arkham Asylum, photographing the plans to a secret vault inside Arkham City. As Catwoman burst into the room, Two-Face laughed as he tossed the originals into the fire. Furious, she knocked him to the ground, grabbed the camera, and ran. With seemingly no escape of either of them, and tiger guards alerted and closing in fast, Catwoman was suddenly pulled to safety by Batman, leaving Two-Face to be captured. As Catwoman ascended, she opened the camera to reveal her prize, only to find that the memory card was vanished. She looked down at Two-Face, who had shown her the card, before calmly swallowing it furious. Furious, Catwoman sliced through the line and plummeted to the ground, only to be surrounded by tiger guards, arrested and taken to Arkham City. Tigers in the City. After disagreeing with the Commissioner Gordon over the policing of Arkham City, Quincy Sharp announced that a private firm had been commissioned to provide a total security solution, Tiger. Unknown to everyone but Hugo Strange, each Tiger operative profiled and implanted this photostatic suggestion that made him unquestionably loyal to him and him alone. Vicky Vale. When Vicky Vale first interviewed Quincy Sharp just days before the events of Arkham Asylum, she felt something was wrong. Sharp's later appearance in the Gotham Nightliner show that she co-host confirmed her suspicions, convinced that Sharp was not the hero he made himself out to be. Vale pressed him for unawares, and he became confused, struggling against the facts. As she moved for the journalist's kill, she was shocked when Sharp suddenly regained his composure, answering all her questions with authority. It was as if he suddenly spoke with someone else's voice. Whatever was going on, Vale became more determined to cover the truth. Wonder City, part 1 of 3. Over a century ago, the mysterious Ra's al Ghul arrived in Gotham City and met with the Gotham Elders. Even though Gotham was a crime and lawless place, Ra's was promised a bright future for all in exchange for a deed to the north end of the city. The Gothamites laughed at the strange man until he produced more gold than they had ever seen. The deed in the hand, Ra's began construction of a new city, a utopian vision, powered by clean, free energy with no crime. The future would be bright, and at last the brick was laid by the slaves he had shipped from his homeland. Ra's presented the future of Gotham, Wonder City. It's kind of interesting. Wonder City was actually made by slaves. You think Ra's should be one against that? They have Wonder City, 2 of 3. Botanical Gardens watched over the population of Wonder City, while behind the scenes lawbreakers were removed and executed. Wonder Tower stood above it all, a monument to prosperity. For Ra's, the real reason for choosing this location was simple. Beneath the streets he had located a chemical source that he called Lazarus. Small doses would rejuvenate a person, but Ra's believed that with enough power, the Lazarus could be supercharged to defeat any element, even death itself. No to all but Ra's and his engineers, Wonder Tower was actually a giant lightning rod. When the time was right, he would test his theory. Winter City, 3. Winter City continued to operate for months before the effect of prolonged exposure to Lazarus chemical became clear. It was driving the city's inhabitants insane. When Ra's failed to act, the newly formed Gotham City Hall did. Winter City was declared a public health hazard and quarantined. Troops dragged the screaming citizens out of their homes straight to Arkham Asylum. Ra's al Ghul disappeared as Gotham reached into the sky. New neighborhoods were built all over Wonder City. The site was all but forgotten. Some years later, Ra's returned in need of his old Lazarus pit. As his forces began the mining process, the street above collapsed, but Ra's forced them to keep digging. The payphone killer. At first, it was just missing people, lasting near payphones, but the body started to appear, mutilated and posed. Stories of a payphone killer spread fast. As the sound of ringing phones haunted the streets, Mr. Zsasz smiled, hiding in his lair he purchased from the broker. He monitored any array of surveillance cameras pointed at each payphone in Arkham City. As each victim answered his call, he acted fast, following them, tracking their movements, and then when the time was right, killing them. It was perfect. He knew one day he would see Batman holding that phone, and that he would be able to carve his final mark. So there you go, guys. That is all the Arkham stories in the part 2. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Ciao.